I'm a motherfucking beast, girl. In this jungle out here, beware. When you see me in these motherfucking streets, girl. Like I don't even care, be clear. I'ma tell you exactly what you wanna hear sometimes. I'ma mean that shit sometimes. I won't mean that shit, I'm trying to find a way to beat that shit. Tell you exactly what you wanna hear, and I'ma have fun with it. Give me your heart and I'll run with it. Give it back in pieces when I'm done with it.
What up, everybody? Welcome to the Relationship DNA podcast. I am your host, A. Smalls. Renee couldn't be here this day, but we got a substitution in, so it still goes with the D because we call her Dina. Please introduce yourself to the world.
What's up, everyone? This is Dina. I am the host of Not For Everybody podcast. We're kind of on a little delay. I told my brother all the time, the juices just aren't flowing right now, so hopefully I'll get back there soon.
Listen.
Hey, brother.
What up? I'm glad to speak to you. Listen, don't let the creative block get you, man. Just get on there and start ranting like I always do.
Oh, no, I don't. No, the ranting is for you. I leave that for you.
You know me, I enjoy a good conversation, so I'm glad that you're here today. This is the topic that you specifically picked out of my list of topics. I got over 100 topics that I have in the cuff and written out, detailed, titled, and description. She picked this one. The title of this episode is going to be Self-Reflection plus Self-Honesty equals Accountability, exploring various outlets of accountability. So before we get into the topic, I'm going to say we are a relationship-based podcast. Basically, what we do is we just explore the interaction between men and women, ideologies, concepts, so that we can better improve our community, our families, and all that stuff. Even the businesses, everything is based on some type of ship, relationship, situationship, partnership, marriage ship, whatever you want to call it. It's a bunch of ships.
There's no ship in marriage.
There's a bunch of ships. Yeah, when you get divorced, somebody ships off, right?
It's hopeless. Abandoned ship.
So that's the goal. We are a relationship podcast. We explore that. The purpose is just to improve relationships, and the goal of this episode is to get to the root of accountability. What does it look like for men and women? Later on, we're going to have a back and forth discussion questionnaire towards each other, as we normally do towards the end of the podcast. But to start off, before we get into the topic, we're going to go into our first segment, which is relationship role play. So I gave you a rundown about this. This is where me and Damo enjoy interacting or acting out a scenario. So I gave you the scenario. I'll read it for the folks. I said a man takes a woman out on an expensive date to impress her. Date goes well overall, but he never hears back from her. Every call, every text, she don't respond. A few days later, he goes across his social media and sees that she's in a full-blown relationship, a long-term relationship. So that means that she went out with him while she was in a relationship. Never told him. Never was honest on that date. A few days later, they bump into each other on the street. Act it out. That is the scenario. So we
picking up at where they're seeing each other.
Them meeting in the street.
Into each other. Okay.
All right. We spun the wheel earlier. As you know, we got 4 character traits. It landed on C, which is lies about everything. And then the other one landed on D, which is blame, deflect, and a poor communicator. So I gave Dina liar, because she be lying. Now, let me stop. But I felt that we just got to pick these traits and act them out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the timer on. Let's set the timer. And then we can get into this role play and get through the episode. 1 second. Put it on 2 minutes. All right?
Okay.
Ready?
Round
1.
Fight.
Yo, what up, yo? How you doing? Oh, so you don't know me? You're not going to speak? Yeah, we went out on that date. You don't remember?
What date?
I took you to the restaurant, you
took me.
Chez Maurice's. I spent $500.
Boy, I've never seen
the restaurant the restaurant that Martin and Tommy always talk about on episode of Martin. I took you there. I spent all this money, and then I see you on social media and you in a relationship. So why you just didn't tell me?
I've been in a relationship. Like I wouldn't even talk to you.
But we went out.
In this relationship.
We went out.
You didn't go out with me.
You text me pictures of your toes. You want me to pull it out on my phone? When we was texting before the
Go
date.
right ahead. How do you know that they were my toes?
Because you send them to me. It's your number.
That doesn't mean anything. I could have sent you
This
my
not your number?
aunt's toes.
This just not your number? 555 lie.
Absolutely not. Would you like to look at it?
Yes. So
do you want to look at my phone book?
Overall, if you was in a relationship, why was you real? Why wasn't real with me?
I have not seen you. Like, I don't even know
this
who you
is
are.
the reason. This is the reason why people can't get in good relationships nowadays. We roll the dice on. We roll the dice on people like you. We roll the dice on people like you, and things don't work out. You know what?
I'm gonna just
that's
take
why.
it over
that's
here.
why your forehead is big, yo. Like,
that's okay.
I couldn't even see you on the first date because it was mad shiny, yo.
It. And clearly, you wanted to love it too because you were the one who
no,
I was
kind of interested. I was kind of interested. I was trying to be honest with you, but you know what?
I will never be interested.
Where your man at though? Where you at?
He is right over there.
Right over there. Holla at him. Tell him to come over here. See, he know what's up. That's why he ain't coming over here. But back to you. You owe me $500.
He has no reason to come over
here.
You
owe me bread. I want my money. You owe me bread for that day.
You
owe me that bread for that day. Yo.
Okay, well, you have a good night, sir.
Is that a real Gucci purse? Is that a real Gucci purse? Time.
Like, how do I walk away on this?
That was a good one.
How do I leave? Like, that's me leaving.
This is one of my fun. I love doing this acting out thing. You know, we all have a history, a background in some form of acting. You with nightlife, me with playtime, and all this other weird stuff I did on the side. So that was fun. Relationship role play. So if you are listening, please hit us up on IG, send us an email, and let us know who won, because she does it on behalf of the women, I do it on behalf of the men, and the goal is to win on behalf of the team. So I feel I won.
Winner!
The problem is that you always feel that you win. Like, you are not the winner all the time.
All I do is win.
No, let's hash this out. Okay.
All I do is win, no
let's
matter what.
Let's hash this out. Because we gotta dig deep into this whole date, the phone, the messages. How did this even come about? Like, let's dig into it. And where does it come with the accountability?
Scenario is,
I know with honesty.
Now, the reason why I wrote that scenario, me and you both can actually say, well, I can say I've heard the scenario before. Mm-hmm. I've actually been on the scenario before where I took somebody out on a date thinking they were single, and I cheered them up for them to go back to their ex.
So let me ask you a question here, because a few days later have gone by. So let's just look at it from the aspect that maybe around the time when you did reach out, her and homeboy were on a break. They broke up. Sometimes there are some women who are just like, you know what, whatever, they react out of emotions because we broke up. So I'm gonna do me.
But most men
eventually they spoke, and now they're getting back together. So now you're not hearing from her. She could have been honest and said, like, I'm on a break, or, you know, my boyfriend and I just broke up. Or even if she didn't say that, and when you reached out, she could have said, like, you know, it was a great time. I did get back with my boyfriend. Whatever the case may be, she could have been honest, whatever her reasoning is.
And that's a part of the topic of accountability. If you go out on a date with somebody and you're saying this, and that, why not just be honest with the situation? Give the person the opportunity to let them know if they want to go out on a date. Let them know if they really should invest time into it. So it ties into the topic of accountability on both parties. Her for not telling the truth, and him, what was your overall goal in trying to impress this woman?
Right, because you spending $500 on the first date. What were you trying to really impress? Let's just be honest here. You can impress in so many different ways. It didn't have to be an expensive restaurant.
But
I feel like that expensive restaurant was you basically trying to get the drug.
I think
the first date.
Not on the first date, but I think overall every goal is to get the draws on both sides, on men and women's side. They both want to smash it eventually. But the goal is you're trying to impress somebody, because I've been there before. You look at the caliber of person, you're looking at the competition, and you're like, okay, I got to step here in order to play in this game right now. But at the same time, it sets a man up for failure, because you shouldn't start off where you can't continue. If you set the bar here.
It's that, but it's definitely that. But when it comes to honesty, the man's not being honest from jump either. So how are you going on a date with an individual and expecting her to be honest when you automatically came on this date in a role?
He came in a role to impress her. That's not being honest.
But he wasn't. It wasn't him.
How, Sway?
How wasn't it him?
Is that something that he does on a norm?
That's something that he has done, and I could say that a lot of men do
he
that.
Does on the norm.
That's what that
or
is.
Was that something that he did in order to lure her in?
That is what you call it. That's the bait for fishing.
You're not being honest. You're not being who you are. You're not being the broke individual that you are. Monday through Friday, using whatever resources you may have had. Because let's be clear. If we're taking this person out on a date, do you normally blow $500 on a date? Do you normally blow $500 on yourself? So both him and her went on this date, not being honest with each other.
So now
they both lying.
So I'm glad that you deduced that from the scenario. That was the whole purpose, and to go, and I hope the listeners are listening. As a man, you should never take somebody on a benchmark that you can't sustain, and at the same time, just because it's expensive doesn't mean it's going to be the best date.
Absolutely.
And women,
I've had some expensive dates that were dates from hell.
And women, if you're trying to get some free food, just be honest and say, I want to go out on a date without lying about having a boyfriend or dating multiple people. Give me the option to let me know what I'm doing.
No. First of all, if you have a boyfriend, your dinner date should be with your boyfriend. Like
it should, but like you said,
you
said it was a break. And I can attest that if we had a lot of men on the panel, they'd be like, I heard that a lot of times when a girl want to cheat, well, all of a sudden we on a break. And then that's their excuse.
Oh, that is bullshit. That is the male.
You've never heard a woman say that before? I did something, but we were on break. Bitch, we broke.
Our end, we legit were on the break. Y'all are always on the break if we leave it to y'all.
Nah, that's some bullshit. That's some bullshit. I'm
about to take this paper and rip it.
Listen, you can rip it, but
it was a good thing that we were not sitting next to each other.
Both sides do it.
Both sides can't. Absolutely.
That's all I'm pointing out.
Let's be honest here. Men are always on break. That excuse can't.
Not men are. You can't say that.
If we're gonna have a conversation about honesty,
it is honest. So all means that you've dated all men, and every man that you met has been on break.
No,
that's what I'm saying. So that's what you can't say all.
Okay, I'm gonna say this. You in playtime. We both see a lot of these comments. And a lot of it comes from the males. What I see more than anything are the females being more honest.
Okay.
Not on the male end.
Now, is that the entire crop of men in Playtime? And to let all the viewers know, Playtime Worldwide is an entity. We are the largest. Sorry for that interruption. As she really had the dog barking, had a sign that says free food here. So people knocking on the door. But as she was mentioning, Playtime Worldwide is one of the largest adult game nights on the East Coast. And we have a Facebook page where it's over 30,000 people on there from all over the world, commenting on different memes, topics. And I host Ask 'em Mondays every Monday on there, sometimes live, sometimes on the discussion post. But as you were saying, a lot of guys aside there say this, and a lot of women are honest, but that's still not all.
It is not all. It is not the same way men can't say that all women aren't accountable.
Well, I didn't say all women accountable.
I didn't say you, unless your name is Man. Your name is Man? I met you as Anthony. What's your name?
But we're talking, we're having a conversation. So
yes, but
you call me on it, I call you on it. So therefore, you can't say all because I don't do it. And I'm your brother, right? You know I don't do it.
Just because we brother and sister does not mean do you. So you've never done it.
Have I ever done it? Yes. But at what age did I do that? 20?
I could have been in the 30s. You'd be really surprised here.
I didn't do it in my
Listen, bro.
30s because during my 30s, I was trying to understand as a single person how to magnetize something better than what I was getting. So it took a process of elimination of trying to eliminate certain caliber traits out of myself, but also in the people that I was looking for. So I stopped doing a lot of childish things when I started reading and going to therapy and getting more better context clues to how to navigate the world. So it takes those efforts to change.
I'm glad you said that, because that's what it boils down to. Because a lot of people state that they want people to be accountable, hold them, own their shit, right? The reality is that it's always going to be easy to say. Being accountable and owning your flaws and correcting whatever issues you have, it takes work, and it's not overnight work. It's work that is done on a continuous basis. It's like daily work. So just because a person states that they are accountable or they want to be, if they're not applying the work, if they're not doing the tasks that come along with that, you can talk about it all you want. It won't happen. And I find that it is easier for a lot of people to do that. We will never get anywhere as a people if we don't take time and sit with ourselves, because a lot of us have a lot of work to do. We're fucking human, honestly. So none of us are perfect. There's always going to be things that we can fix and do better in, but ultimately it always boils down to the work that we do. And I find that we're in a day and age where it's so much easier to just talk it and not actually walk it.
Well, I will say we are a podcast that definitely advocates for mental health therapy and self-improvement. So I want to jump back to the topic of self-reflection plus self-honesty equals accountability. When you hear that topic, what are thoughts come to your mind when you hear that topic?
So I can speak from a personal experience, because I would say maybe 2-3 years ago, I wasn't honest with myself. I wasn't holding myself accountable for anything. I mean, I didn't feel that I felt like I was always being the accountable one. But when I sat down with myself and going to therapy and just doing a lot of the assignments that my therapist gave me, I realized that I had a hard time with looking at self and figuring out what I was doing wrong, and how a lot of things that I swept under the rug for years spilled out into all of my ships, friendships, my, parenting, work, like in all aspects, because all I did was just pile the stuff on top that it just toppled. And until I really sat down, it was just like writing out things. Like, I read a book the other day, it's in regards to setting boundaries. And that whole book was pretty much me. And I didn't realize that how not setting actual boundaries for myself is what caused a lot of the problems that I had in every area. I didn't even realize that you can set realistic boundaries in your workspace, because I felt like if I did that, it will backfire on me in the case of possibly like losing my job or whatever. It's just about how you say things and how you do things. So for me, when you say self-reflect plus self-honesty equals accountability, if we were having this conversation 3 years ago, I'd have been like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, this doesn't even pertain to me, because I felt like I was an honest person. And maybe I would say that I still was then, but I would say that I was more honest probably with everyone else to an extent, but definitely not honest to myself.
So you said a whole lot, and it's powerful in therapy and trying to set boundaries. You mentioned setting boundaries for not just everybody else, but for yourself. Boundaries can also be seen as goals and benchmarks for yourself to improve. So I want to know, how do we go forward and understand self better? what are some of the key aspects to understanding self better? Because a lot of people don't even understand themselves. And therapy is one way, but what are other ways that we can understand ourselves?
I would say, honestly, for the most part, and I say therapy should be first because we don't realize how much underlying issues we have stored away that causes a lot of other things until we actually talk about it. And what I've learned is I had lost. I'm trying to get there. It's a, like I say, it's a daily work. But when you lose that vulnerability with people, whether it's your spouse, your friends, or whatever, you're stifling your voice. So you're not really talking, but you can have that safe space in therapy. And I will say that it definitely should start with therapy because you can get a lot more things out that will really start to get down to the nitty gritty to say like, okay, I didn't even realize these things like really impacted me to the point where this is where my thought process was going. So for me, I would say therapy. If people aren't for therapy, because there are a lot of people who aren't for therapy, I would go to someone that you feel like you can be your most vulnerable with and go to them and have them talk to you with, and you have an open ear and allow them to be honest and respectful of things that they see are somewhat issues and are a detriment to you as far as your relationships. If you have a person that you can talk to that's going to be flat out honest, like, all right, well, I never said X, Y, and Z because of how I've seen you receive things in the past. But since you want to put in the work, I feel like if you do A, B, C, and D, or if you paid attention to some of these things and try to switch your approach, it will help out in a better way. I think it works there. I read a lot of different types of books, professional books, personal books. Reading, it helps you start thinking in different ways. In writing, like I started writing out a lot of the things about myself that I didn't like. Journaling helped a lot, especially when I go back and I look at some entries and I'm just like, shit. Like, not only can I see like what space that I was in at that time, but I can do a reflection and say like, okay, well, look where I'm at now. I no longer do that, or I'm still here. I need to focus solely on fixing this trait a little bit more. So there's various ways, but from what I've learned, especially with this last year and a half we had, I feel like people do need to talk. And it may have to be a conversation with an unbiased person. And get to the nitty gritty, because there's a lot of things that I didn't realize that impacted me as an adult. I didn't realize like the death of certain people in my life kind of turned off my emotions. And certain relationships with certain people where I felt like I could not be vulnerable allowed me to turn the key off on vulnerability too. So if I never had the experience to actually sit with someone and she really asked certain questions, I probably wouldn't be able to say that today.
I feel you. So I have a question. We talked about therapy, we talked about journaling, and when you mention all this stuff about self, it talks about the kind of the importance to get yourself together. One would ask, why is self so important? Why should we care about self, and why is it so important?
If self isn't good, how are we good for anybody else? How do we contribute to our relationships if we're trash?
And a lot of times
broken inside, we can't expect to have these good relationships if we're broken. What are we providing them? What are we showing them? And if we don't know what we want or what we deserve from these relationships, how do we get what we're yearning for from them? Because we can't even speak up.
So I was having a session with somebody the other day, and they was talking about the difficulties in relating, dating and relating to men. And I said, I know you personally, and I know that you haven't done the work to improve yourself or fix what you need to fix about you. So if you never put yourself first as an importance, why would anybody else see to put you first if you don't put yourself first? Because most people can see that in you. And that's the reason why I formulated the discussion the way that it's going, of getting to understand yourself, getting to put yourself first, and realize how important it is for you to be a great foundation first before you start bringing things into your household, your area, your vicinity. It gotta be on a better foundation in order for things to work. So that's why I was talking about that. If we look at the word accountability, the origins is like the state of being aware, and honesty is like upright moral purity. One thing I read said honor received from others, like reputation of character. So if your character is in question because you don't know yourself and you're not aware that yourself is not in good standings, and the character traits that you have in relating, in dating, in business practices, how could you ever get any success through that?
My motto now is that if you care about me in any kind of space, whether it's personal or professional, and you see me fucking up in some areas, or you see some fucked up shit about me, I expect you to call me out on it. Bring it to my attention. Help me. Like, you may have tools or knowledge to push me in a better direction. But if you want to just sit there and watch me fuck up and talk about it, then you don't need to be around me or in my space, period.
So I was reading something as I was prepping for this, and it said, if being aware is vigilant, and being vigilant is to keep awake, be watchful, and not fall asleep. Why do we often sleep on ourselves when it comes to accountability? Why are we so unaware and like not present when it comes to self-accountability?
I would like to say that it goes back to certain patterns and behaviors, generational things, the way things are constantly done. So it's kind of like a Groundhog Day scenario in a sense, with each generation is like, this person, you saw this in this household, so now you're taking it into this household. And it's like a pattern until someone decides to break that pattern and moves outside of that norm, if that makes sense.
No, I get what you're saying.
Something that you see all the time. It's something that you hear all the time. You're around people who share similar traits. So you're not capable of seeing outside of that because you're constantly surrounded by it. But then you have like that one person who just shoots up straight in the middle, and it's just like, nah, fuck that. Like, if I move out of this space, I can do so much more. And I think that's what happens. You know, John and I have this conversation a lot of recent, because him and his friends make a point in stating that you don't need to have a job in order to obtain your goals of entrepreneurship in this day and age. And they break down all the different reasons. And I tell them that you're 1,000% right. But it's not okay for you to down the previous generations before you guys, because the circumstances were different. Information wasn't always readily available as it is now. The resources weren't there as it was now. Their primary focus was taking care of their family, doing the things that they were taught were the most important, on top of whatever else you had coming, like that came in second and third. But the primary focus was home. They didn't have the time that I feel like this generation has now. So they can just get up and go. They have social media where you can go and you make one video and it can take off and set you in different spaces. So the opportunities are different. And it's not just, so it goes based on what you're taught and what you're surrounded by. And I always say, like, I grew up not being in a space where I can express myself.
Mm.
So in that, it it was the starting foundation of lacking vulnerability, being a people pleaser in an extent, going with the flow, don't step on nobody's toes. Like it was so many different things. So I feel like it primarily starts from your foundation. What's around you, what's instilled in you. And then after that, you know, as you get older, shit changes, you grow up, you start to see things differently. Some people see it earlier, some people see it later. That's why they say it's never too late to learn.
And to give some context clues to everybody that's listening, Jordan is your son. How old is Jordan now?
He'll be 23 this month.
Yes, pleasurable young man, very, very mannerable and stuff like that, respectful to me. So I like him.
Yeah.
So as you're saying that about generation and differences between back then and currently, isn't it weird that no matter how much things change, like when I read articles, they talk about how fast technology has grown, how it triples every day, how we get new technology, new this, new that. And then I look at the societal structures and everything is so prehistoric. Education. So when you were saying entrepreneurship and going viral, there should be a new structure of education that teaches entrepreneurship in the creative ways that we like it, starting from elementary.
I agree.
Not at college, at elementary, so we can maximize.
Totally
but if they, I don't think they want a nation of free thinkers. I think they want a nation of control. So it's just interesting that you say that, because I'm just like, yeah, there's like I was telling my kids the other day, there's a conveyor belt called life, but there's multiple conveyor belts. But for some reason, everybody follows this one conveyor belt. That is the language of go to school, get a degree, get a good job. There's no clues, there's no context, there's no measurement on what any of these things mean or any aspects, but a lot of people jump on this belt, no questions asked, and go on the belt and live life. And everybody's on this belt that I see normally complain about how annoyed they are about life, how much they hate life, how much this and that. And I was telling them that this belt is always going to be here. It's set to be here. So in the meantime, while you're young and creative, have no bills, have no kids, why don't you try this conveyor belt and try to see what else happens? Because everybody that follows this one is on the same path. But everybody you aspire to, that you say is rich, famous, or creative, they all went on a different conveyor belt. So why don't we try something different? Because it'll always be here. This belt will always be here for you. Go to school, get a degree, get a good job. That belt will always be there for you. But in the meantime, let's figure out how we can create something different. So I wanted to add that inside it. Since you brought it up, I thought it was a great point. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was self-reflection. We went over honesty, went over accountability. When I was looking up reflect, the origin of the word reflect, you know what I read that was just like, wow, that's powerful. And I hope everybody get what I'm about to say. It literally said the origin of reflect means to turn one's thoughts back on.
Basically, to retrain your way of thinking.
Look at everything that happened, turn your thoughts back on and analyze what's going on. And I think a lot of times, if you hear the way that's framed, I think it's too much work for the average person, or too much stress, or too much something for somebody to want to turn back on their thoughts to reflect and seek change, versus just kind of blaming everything on society, this person, this and that.
Yeah, it's an easy way out.
So what do you think about that reflect? Easy. What do you think about that whole notion of reflect?
That was me. Like I found a way to blame everything else besides saying like, but girl, what part do you play in it? Like it's a dual thing. Every work, friends, love life, family, it's not just them, because it's an interaction overall. So how are you interacting in those situations? And you know, it's unfortunate that my aunt's passing kind of pushed me straight into that thought process, but I'm glad that it did, because I was not happy, but I was always smiling and I was always posting the positive stuff. I was always an ear for everybody else, and nobody was an ear for me. And not to say that they knew that I needed an ear, because again, I was just pushing through. But it took for me to sit there, and when my therapist told me to kind of like write a letter to myself and write out the things that I didn't like in my relationship, I realized that I was the key player in those issues.
So it's interesting that you say that we all play a role. I get killed a lot when we have open discussions about dating and failed relationships, and it comes to the aspect of cheating or a breakup. And I always ask, how did you play a role in this experience? And they always say, I hate to say it, mainly when it was like, how did I play a role in this? If he did this, if he did this, he did that. And I say, well, it's two people in a relationship. There's something along this line that you played a part of, that you were experienced of. Not saying it's your fault. I'm saying, what role did you play in this? And if you can recognize this role, then you tend not to repeat it once you claim your role. But if you blame, you're bound to take this class again. That's what relationships are. It is a repetitive class, and you'll get the same lesson no matter what university or what relationship you run to. That class is waiting there to say, hey, you didn't pass this class yet. You ever transfer from one school to another? They like, yeah, I know you took this class, but you ain't take our class, so you got to take this one. We don't count that credit. So that's very interesting. But to bring it all together, the topic and the discussion that we're having, self-reflection plus self-honesty equals accountability. So if we're not being reflective, turning on our thoughts and replaying it back to make ourselves better, if we're not taking the opportunity to be honest with ourselves, which is going over our reputation and our thoughts about ourselves, being upright and pure in our morals, and being accountable, and being accountable, being a state of aware of everything that you've done. Why are we so comfortable lying to ourselves then? Because if all of these things are negative, all these things are not being paid attention to, aren't you just living a lie to yourself? Why are we so comfortable lying to ourselves?
Because it's easy to go to sleep with it. The reality is, and I think what's not thrown out there enough, is that it's not an easy journey. No one wants to be able to really sit and look at the ugly truth of themselves and sit with it and deal with it. That shit is hard. It's hard and it's scary. So I understand why it's easy to just say, you know what, I'm gonna just cover this up and move on, because you don't have to worry about it. But it takes a strong person to be able to sit there and finally take that paper off the mirror and say, I got work to do. It's not easy. And I don't like how the message can come across with certain posts that you see like on social media and everything like that, to make it seem like it's such an easy thing to do, because it's not. If it was such an easy thing to do, just like how we found it comfortable to sleep with a lie, we would have took that route off the rip, because it's easy. When it's self-work and looking at you for who you are, without the bundles, without the twists, without the lashes, without the foundation, all of that, it's not a pretty sight. And sitting with your true self and knowing how much of a fuck up or an asshole, or how insecure you are, how much you lack in certain areas, those things aren't easy at all. That shit will make you cry.
So the funny thing
is,
now the flip side of that, why do we get upset when other people lie to us if we lie to ourselves? Why are we not just as mad at ourselves?
I mean, we're human beings. That's just natural. Like, no, we're known to call people out just because, but no one wants to be called out. That goes to the whole point of that's what's that saying when people taught what is that saying? Because I feel like I've just seen it recently, and it's like you look for your people, your tribe, to be honest with you, and you want them to be honest until it comes back to you. It's something like that. I have to find it, because I was just looking at it the other day, and I was like, it's the pot calling the kettle black. Like, it's always easy to throw it onto somebody else, but when it's time for us to do it, it just don't work that way.
I could take it. I'll say that. I can take honesty.
Can you?
I can. The only time that I can't take honesty is when considering the source. I'm being honest with you. I'm being honest with you. Can I be honest? Are you mad at me for being honest?
No, but are there rules and regulations to honesty?
No, there's no rules.
Are there
but
only key players? Only certain players?
You're a Christian. What's your favorite Bible verse? Don't worry about the dirt on my grass while your grass is on fire. like that is
what
like annoying.
Is
It's like, don't worry about the speck in my eye when you have a plank in your eye, something like that. It was one of those two references, but it speaks to when somebody tries to point out something that you're doing and they haven't done it for themselves. It's kind of like, hey, hold up. Before I accept anything you're saying right now, you want to go there? Okay, I don't mind honesty, but considering the source.
Side to that point, because regardless of that individual being honest with themselves, they could still be able to talk to you about the things that they see about you.
And it's cool, but when you when you always have something to say about me and I'm looking over at you like I know what's wrong with me. I do self-counseling every day. I've done all of the work. I've done all of the reading. I went to all the therapists. I've done all the catharticism that I could, and you haven't done none. But you're trying to tell me that's when I'm looking at you like, yeah, like you want to stop now because I'm about to.
But my work and your work is different.
So don't worry about my work. Don't worry about my work.
How are we even in each other's space?
No, we could be in each other's space.
I can't. But you don't want me to be honest with you because I'm not being honest with myself at the moment. Everybody's journey starts.
That's something that I am working on, but I was just being honest because I think other people do it. And the podcast is to explore things that people might not see or hear about. So I'm just sharing that with people because I know I do it, but I'm quite sure other people do it too. So I don't want to be read by you right now for saying that. I was just trying to be honest.
That's another thing. I need to be on this a little bit more because he doesn't like to be read. He likes to do the reading, but he does not like to be read.
Who,
darling?
You.
Detective, you?
Not you. You.
Who's he?
Who?
You.
Who?
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
That's not my name. My name not he. Who he?
Anthony Smooth.
I don't even know why you said my name like that. That's so disrespectful. Is that liquor?
Survey said.
It is water.
It'd be vodka. She got a clear cup. It's straight vodka.
It is water.
And she drinking it like it don't burn. So, here I go. If a lie or anything that is considered false or not true, or a falsehood, if that is the case, can we expect anything positive when we lie to ourselves? Can we expect anything positive to come out of lying to ourselves? So expound on that.
It would be a fake positive.
Expound on that, because there's a lot of people out there that think that they're perfect and they have no work to do, and the people that they date have to do all the work. They got to come and behave in a manner in order for me to feel comfortable to trust you or to commit to you. That's a lie if you're not doing your own work.
I mean, I don't know how I can, like, an example or even how to put that into play.
But maybe it was my the way that I structured the question.
So, like, for example, I am the one who pretends that I'm perfect, right?
Perfect Patty.
And then, but look.
Krabby Patties.
You see this? The shot? We are using an example, okay?
I know.
Type it down. So I'm the one who's acting like I'm perfect, but I'm also expecting everyone around me to be perfect.
You know you got work to do, and you procrastinate on your self-healing or self.
If I'm perfect,
I'm not saying you. I'm just saying the person in general.
No, I'm thinking about as if I'm that person, because I'm thinking if I'm already feel like I'm perfect, what work is there need to be done?
Well, that goes back to the topic of the keywords: self-awareness, self-honesty, accountability, turning on your thoughts to reflect what you need to work on. And one of the things I have on a website, let y'all know, you can go to the Relationship DNA website and look at this mission statement and some of the quotes I have there. And one quote that it says is, relationship is a highly reflective mirror for your partner to reveal what you need to work on. It's not your partner's job to work. It's for your partner to let you know what still triggers you, what haven't you overcome, and why are you still going through the same life relationship lesson at this age? Why hasn't there been no growth? So there's little key things that I read like that kind of frames my thought process when I'm doing all these talks and stuff like that. You got to have great content, great things, that profound writing, speaking to stretch your viewpoint, to get a different lens to see things. But yeah, that's one thing. Relationship is a mirror.
Yeah, I'm like, perfect. Yeah, that was a good one.
So if the truth works, can we blame others for not wanting to inflict their own self-harm? Meaning, the truth hurts, we say that. Does that give you a scapegoat or a pass to not hurt yourself and to rebuild yourself and make yourself better?
But when it's the truth hurts, it's usually coming from somebody else, not from self.
But the truth, like you said, is work, and nobody wants to explore it. So technically, you'll be hurting yourself. It's self-harm. Does that give you a pass not to work on yourself?
No, absolutely not.
How does one
but
overcome
some people
that?
will take it as a pass.
How
the
does one
only way
overcome
to
that?
overcome is to just take that leap.
The leap
There's
of therapy?
no other way. The leap into therapy, or the leap into having somebody who's just gonna be as honest with you and as transparent with you, and you actually wanting to do better.
And I'll be totally transparent on this podcast, because it is something that I want people to not shy away from, but people to get a better understanding of things. When I was going through what I was going through in my mid-20s, I really was at a low point and very sad, suicidal, and all stuff like that. And I had to go through the therapy, and then I had to do the catharticism of really writing down what's wrong and why. Why do I feel this way about myself? Why don't I totally love myself? I like myself, but why don't I totally love myself? And how did I allow myself to get here to love somebody more than I loved myself, that now that they're not here, I don't want to live? Like that was hurtful, but I was curious to know, why is my mindset like that? I had to explore just not even myself.
You were intrigued to find out more.
Because
that's the difference.
Because
some people are okay with just covering that and not wanting to find out more. And so, maybe it spills over and they have no choice.
Well, I was curious mainly because my mom and my biological father didn't stay together. So now that I'm not together with my older two kids' mother, I was wondering, is there like some type of juju in the family? Or are we just repeating all these things just come into my mind, and I'm just questioning it, and nobody is going to understand, because when I try to talk about the situation or what I'm feeling, nobody's listening to what I'm saying. People are kind of just telling me what I need to do. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And I don't know how to do that. I know it's easier said than done, but I can't do that. I'm trying to understand this. So you go to therapy doesn't work. You go this. So the work eventually came from me sitting down every day and writing these questions out to myself, to build myself up and figure out where all these triggers come from, where did all the self-hate come from. And once I got over it and I connected on why all this stuff exists to my understanding, because I couldn't speak for my father, I couldn't speak for my mother, I couldn't speak for my kid's mother, I couldn't speak for my friends, I couldn't speak for the people in the community of why I felt people felt this way about me. But once I understood why I felt this way, then after that I was like, I'm good. And then all that time that I was alone, I learned that I don't need to be around people. I'm good by myself. I'm actually more positive or more or less stressed, because the more people you're around, the more you got to take on their shit.
I feel like people need to, learn to enjoy being their own company.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a big person, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people freak out if they're by themselves. They can't stand like just being with self. It like does something to them. So I will say that it does take a big person to do that, and you should be able to do that in order to go deeper into what it is that you want to change about self.
Mm-hmm. I'll edit all this out. On
No,
the video,
leave
on the
it.
video, on the video, they're gonna be like, "Yo, she's in new rooms every other."
Every other second. Like, how does she even move like that?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it takes. I feel I'm a strong believer in everybody gets on their journey at their own time. We don't all get on that train at the same time. But I do feel like it's very rewarding once you do get on for the ride, and don't go into it thinking like now that you started the work, everything is just going to change. It takes time.
Mm-hmm.
Every day I struggle with just anything because we're human. We can easily backtrack.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't stay consistent, it can just all fall to the wayside and we just back at square one. So it takes time. Don't rush it and enjoy it. Enjoy the ride.
Mm-hmm.
You learn so much.
And think about your self-healing as surgery. If you get shot or stabbed, does it heal overnight? It takes some time. You need a little surgeon, which is your therapist. You need the utensils, which is like the good word or some books that you read. And then you need time to yourself to understand and reflect and heal.
It's like therapy. It's like
Yes.
the physical therapy that some have to go through after it. That's what that part is. And when you start applying it, you just keep applying it, and you ask your tribe to hold you accountable. If they are your people, they will hold you accountable, and it could be done without coming at people or being rude or disrespectful or anything like that. It's all because we all care enough to be better people, and we should want the people around us to be better too.
Definitely. So we explored the topic, and now we can get into our question-based segment. This is where we ask questions specifically directed at each other based on the topic of accountability. Do you want to go first with your question, or do you want me to go first?
I only had one question.
Okay, so then let me go first before you shoot your shot.
Yes.
So I have a specific question. This is where me and Damo normally have like 5 questions. We try to write down 10 just in case. And depending on the conversation goes, try to pick them out from that list. But my first question directly to you on behalf of women. Okay. If most women are a walking lie in the terms of what you mentioned of eyelashes, fake hair, and booty pops, and butt lifts, and heels, and makeup, and surgery bodies, and all stuff like that. If women are a walking lie, why do they ever expect men to tell the truth about anything?
Why do men like those walking lies? You know what I find real crazy is that all of those things are considered to make us walking lies. Yet on social media, that's what you guys gravitate to. You guys don't gravitate to the authentic self. Well, if anything, y'all drag it. Well,
I will say I gravitate towards both. I don't gravitate towards one. Every once in a while I'm on IG and I see somebody naked and I'll stop for a second. Yeah, that's a natural man reaction. We're visual creatures and we're stimulated sometimes by some sexuality. That doesn't mean that all of us seek out this. We don't. We'll take what we're given. And that's why a lot of times women will complain about us cheating with somebody ugly. It's kind of like, it's never about the looks. Because if it was all about the looks, when we were all Black Panther out and Afro and dashiki, nobody would be here today.
That was the best time.
But the point is, nobody was chopped up and looking like all of this fakeness, right?
Right.
So it's not really about the looks. Sometimes it's just about the access. Sometimes what Chris Rock said, men cheat who's close to them. Women cheat for a purpose, to replace your ass. So
pretty much. When you ain't shit, we gotta find what's next. Unfortunately, sometimes it will be another ain't shit.
So regardless of all of this fakeness, you expect men to just be honest and tell the truth from jump.
Because I feel like underneath all of that, I can't speak for all women, but I can say that underneath all of that, we're still honest.
How, Sway?
And sometimes what men may not realize is that when you guys ask us to be honest, when we're honest, y'all got a problem with it. So you gotta pick and choose.
How? Yeah, listen, you're gonna stop saying men. You're gonna start saying some men, like I said, some women.
You said women. You ain't say some.
No, I didn't say all women. It was phrased women. That doesn't mean all. I never say all.
Did you say some? Did you say some?
Okay, touche. Some women.
What did you say? You said women.
I gave you that. I said touche.
Okay,
touche.
Thank you. So some
but just saying women don't mean all.
Can't. You want to end this conversation?
I'll just let you know. Go ahead.
I was like, you got 5 minutes left. Okay.
Listen, but you ain't here. You get these hands.
That you lucky. It was by circumstance that I was not there today. If I was there today, they would have found this even more entertaining.
I hope all the fellas kill you on the comments.
Go ahead. Go listen. I'm tough. I could take it. And I'll go back and forth. You seen some of my comments in playtime when I got some? Some, and again, this can go anyway. Because we can't say some men look for honesty until we're actually honest with them. Some women are the same way. A lot of the traits go either way. So there are some men underneath all of this facade, they're not being completely honest. Some women have all of that and want to continue that lie. Or you have some women who just like to doll it up sometimes, but they're still their authentic 100% self. It goes both ways.
Well, I'm glad you gave that honest answer. It wasn't to be combative or start any shit. It was like really, sure? No, it's real honest questions that I hear during discussions. So I'm like, I'll bring them here and we could just explore it here on the podcast because it's related to the topic. So do you want to shoot your shot or do you want me to go through the 5 that I have?
Well, we can't do 5 because unfortunately, guys, I have a play date. I have a play date. My little cousin is waiting for me.
Okay, so ask your question and then I'll run through mine real quick so that we can try to finish before 7.
What's funny is because the question that I actually have written down is what we just went over. Because my question was, why do men feel women as a whole aren't accountable? And when I say as a whole, it's because every male is literally saying the same thing.
How, Sway?
And it made me say, like, can it tie into the women that you guys are choosing? And if we dig any deeper, there may be an underlying reason why you're encountering the same type of women that you feel are not accountable.
So you want the answer?
Yes.
The number 1 answer. And I'm glad that you said that because I am not going to deflect or try to flip it or anything like that. I'm going to say yes. As I said earlier, a relationship is a mirror. But if you ever read this book, Power versus Force, I think it was, David R. Hawkins, he says to a certain extent, we vibrate on levels and he has a vibration chart. And he's like, if you vibrate here, it's more than likely you're not going to get somebody that's vibrating here. Because mentally, emotionally, financially, everything is not going to line up.
Right.
So you have to level yourself up in order to get an experience. So a lot of times what you get or what you complain about, it could be you and what you magnetize or what you vibrate on a frequency with.
Right.
So I'll say that. And that is something I think is very powerful. And I'm going to stick to that because when I had a certain mindset, I got that experience. And then when I started changing my mindset, then the certain things that I was going after was no longer attractive because I already knew what that produced. So level, like Sierra says, level up and you'll level yourself up. So I'll give you that answer. All right, so let me shoot these real quick at you. If women want husbands, if some women, I'm gonna say some,
thank you,
want husbands, why do the traits of a wife seem like too much work for them to do in their marriages?
This needs to be a whole different episode because that's going to take a lot of back and forth.
Not just short answer, and it's so based off accountability. A lot of times women want this marriage, they want the wedding, they want that. Then after you say I do, they kind of coast for the rest of the situation. No cooking, no sex, they tired, this and that. It
goes both ways. It goes both ways.
Yeah, but I'm asking you, this is formulated towards you on behalf of,
this question applies to a wife. So you would need to ask a wife that because they can only speak onto why those things changed after they got married.
Okay, touche. You dodged that one, like the Matrix. Why does society deem some men as deadbeat dads while not acknowledging the lack of protective measures from the moms?
That is something, unfortunately, that has just been embedded in society that needs to be changed because there are deadbeat dads and deadbeat moms.
Ain't shit
for whatever reason. Oh my God! Why do you want to come at the moms?
It's a punchline for some comedy.
Oh my God! For whatever reason, it has been held that because you are the mother, that you, no matter what, are the most fit parent, which I never understood that at all. Like I think we've all seen a lot of women who just don't hold the title as a mom, as a mother. So I think that a lot of work is needed to be done on that because it really isn't fair. It leaves a lot of men vulnerable. It puts a lot of men in this situation as to they don't want to do because they never feel like they can win or no matter what they do is good enough.
Got you. All right, next question. If the need for all of the prosthetics you mentioned earlier, fake hair, fake nails, all the stuff like that, is an attempt.
Because y'all look for it?
Is an attempt for women to feel happy or confident about themselves. Can a man, can they honestly expect a man to find the same happiness in them that they're already looking for?
That the women are looking for, the men are looking for.
The women are in seek of happiness and stuff like that through the prosthetics, like buying the body, buying the.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah, it was a conversation I had the other day. A lot
of that comes from men. A lot of women aren't really doing it.
I'm going to say that's a cop out because.
Hold on.
Go ahead. You can't say that your own self thing is a man.
You're not gonna let me finish.
Nah, man, I'm trying to be combative right now.
Are you gonna? You know, I am not gonna be here for it. Like you know, you forgot who you were talking to.
That's why I'm doing it. Go ahead.
Okay. No, what I'm going to continue to say is that a lot of women are doing it because they feel that this is what men are looking for.
There we go.
Because of the pointing that men do on social media is like, for example, you're here, we're next to you, but all your likes are geared towards one particular thing. So it plays into an already existing insecurity without you guys not realizing it wholeheartedly. Like you guys may not realize that you're contributing to the existing insecurity that your significant other has by making them feel like they're not enough.
How, Sway?
So now here they are going out and trying to emulate the things that you like the most with the hope of now you'll be happy.
Halfway.
And then the minute we do that, now that's another problem. So it's just like, what y'all want?
The funny thing is, I hear in my head Rock right now. Shout out to Rock B. Wildin and Rebel Rome on the Humbly Arrogant podcast. I see him right now talking about, sounds like they dodging accountability.
How is it dodging accountability?
Because the way that you formulated your statement, it still falls on the men for the reason why women do what they do to themselves.
You know, what's sad is that if you guys took the time out to really speak to a lot of women and get down into some of the things, you will realize that that's where it stems from. And it's not a pointing of the finger. It's just an actual reality.
I think it is a part of a cog in an overall system, but not as major. I think women are normally in competition with each other. Women are normally in competition with each other. It's not really us.
You know, I don't do this whole
we
focus
will
on women
smash
thing.
the most nastiest.
But y'all keep it a secret though.
It don't matter.
It
don't matter.
You guys will never flaunt it.
What they said the other day.
If
women said
own it.
Yeah, we hold ourselves accountable when we tap that ass. Y'all hold yourselves accountable when y'all pretend to be something else because you think that's what we like. I think Steve Harvey said, he said if women said brothers can't get none no more unless they go get a lawyer degree and wear a zoot suit, there will be a bunch of brothers out here getting lawyer degrees and wearing zoot suits just to get some. So y'all have a lot more power than you think.
That's a lie.
Halfway. You can say that's a lie.
Especially in today's man, y'all are the most disrespectful, and well, you know, we'll say that for another.
Well, that brings up an interesting conversation before we end it out. I got a question. So based on exactly what you said, this is very interesting. So you said it's this new generation, this new mentality. And we all know that most of our communities are single parent households raised by mostly who?
Women.
So if a father is in full effect to help in his child's life, always there, always calling, always active, but just doesn't have like full custody of the child living with them. If that child grows up to be unproductive or somewhat of a societal drain on society because they're ill prepared for life, they're not ready, and all that stuff like that, who's more accountable for that child's
both parents?
And why?
If you stating to me that even the parent who is not in the home 24/7 is still actively involved.
Yes, he's actively involved, trying to do the best he can, but for whatever reason,
maybe it's not
the
enough.
Child. Okay, because a lot of times
it could be on both parts. You know, parenting is hard.
A lot of times when I talk in playtime with the Axim and stuff like that, especially ask her, when I ask a lot of women, if it's that difficult and all this other extra stuff, why don't more women just give the child to the father? They'll still see the child the same way the father does. But if you are not going to be on top of the child to make sure that they're on their grades and all stuff like that, why not just give them to the father if the father wants?
But how do you know that I'm not on top of them when it comes to their grades and stuff? But at the end of the day, the child is still.
No, I'm talking about specific scenarios where the children are not doing it.
Specific scenario.
Yeah, I should have probably specified.
It's not the children, because again, it's the children. The children can just be out here doing whatever, not paying attention or whatever. But that doesn't mean that the mom is not sitting down with them, doing the work, things like that. That has no bearing on the mom or the dad. It could be the child.
So
and at that point, I feel like that's when we need to get together, you know, the three of them, or however many children that they have with the issues or whatever, because what happens sometimes is that breakdown in the relationship does have an impact on the children. So it has nothing to do with either parenting style. There may be something going on more with the child that spills into their work.
And the reason I'm saying this is because there's an actual situation that recently came up where the guy has always tried to be there for the child, talk to him about grade schools and stuff like that. And as the child continues to fail, He asks is like, so what is your mother saying about this? He's like, Mom, she don't say nothing. I said, does she check your she said, does she check your work? And she said, he said, no. So then the guy was like, do you ever ask to get assistance from your mom or help with your mom don't check homework or nothing like that? He's just like, no. So he asks the mom, seems like he's not doing good over there. Do you mind if I take him? And she was like, no. And I'm like,
where's the rest of the conversation? Did he reach out to the mom stating what the child says? Because, children in separate homes know how to manipulate situations.
Well,
so was the conversation amongst the parents?
If you've been failing for 4 years, the conversation, it's blatant that there's something wrong here. Can we change something to benefit the child? So,
but what is the father doing that in these 4 years that it doesn't seem to be sinking in either?
He can't seem to reach that child. How was it formulated? He can't seem to reach that child because the child is not in his household, so he can't kind of like follow up on disciplining and stuff like that.
But a toddler, like there's no way to communicate with the child on their own.
It's a teenager, and he has tried to go and try to get custody of his son for reasons like this, but it didn't work out. It didn't work out in his favor. So he got tired of going back and forth to the court if they didn't care. He was just like, I got a parent from a distance, and it's frustrating him because he wants more for the son, but the mother won't.
So when the son, because now I like to ask questions, but when the child is with him and they're doing the work together, there's no struggle?
There's no struggle, but I get the sense that if I'm helping you now, if I'm helping you when you're with me, in the times you're with me, you get it here. But if it's not being, school is repetitive. You got to practice. You got to make sure you do your homework. You got to do it repetitive so you learn the process. But if it's not being repeated, then you can
the child
fall
doesn't
back.
retain it?
Yeah, he because it's not.
He's having a hard time retaining it because as a teenager, you can kind of practice things on your own.
You can.
And you can apply what is taught to you on your own.
You can. You definitely can. But somebody who
but you also know that
custody,
when you
has to make sure
that that you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always hard to call it because I'm very honest here. Children are manipulative. They know how to get over, or not just parents, in anything in the school system, all that. Go to school, you have a sad face, and they fall for your shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, it's a lost cause unless that child speaks up for itself. As a teenager, you have your own voice, that you have your own rights in a court of law when it comes to who you want to stay with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's another avenue as well.
Yeah. But he said, when he was younger, he tried it. He just got sick of the way the system treated him. So he was just like, I gotta wait for him to turn 18, and hopefully he makes the right decision to allow him to save his son. But yeah, that was the last question I had. It was a great topic on accountability, definitely on self-reflection, definitely on self-awareness. So I want to thank you for jumping in for Damo. Shout out to Damo. She's a part of I believe a wedding right now, so that's why she couldn't record today.
Yes,
but before we roll out, we get to the last segment of the show, which is called DNA Decoded. This is where we sum up the topic, give one final group thought
like a group
on it. One final group thought on everything that was discussed. So leave the people with what you feel you learned, or whatever you want to tell them about this episode.
About this episode is how much Aunt Smalls lacks accountability.
I am very accountable. My account might not be full, but I'm accountable.
I just love the open dialogue where it doesn't become disrespectful or anything. You see a lot of conversations and the tone just changes the whole dynamic. Mm-hmm. But what I learned is that I've always loved how open you are and how willing you are to continue on with the learning and the growing. That is something that I love. So I think that that's what made this conversation good. And because I'm in the same space, not to your extent.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a sensei type of things out, but but it allows for a great conversation, and that's what it was today.
Mm-hmm.
And you were able, which I was surprised, but you were able to like really calm down and give credit. So
oh wow, that is crazy
kudos
to
to
me.
you.
That is crazy to me. Like
Because
I'm
you
not like
always
that on a
coming for
regular.
the jugular of the women.
I'm not always coming for the juggler of the women. I'm always pushing to make sure that we have more dialogue. I feel like a lot of times
and I will have a conversation about that.
I feel like a lot of times on podcasts, people like kind of agree, and it's kind of like, well, you got to push and be opposite a little bit, even if you don't agree, just
You do.
a little bit. So
yeah,
that's why some of my
questions,
some of my questions are a little more harsh at times. I'm like, yeah, Dina push back, so I can ask these things and get and give a little context. Not everything that was discussed on the show is like my personal point of view. It's just like, okay, I heard this topic, I heard this. This person would be great for this. This person would be great for this. So I knew that you would push back on a lot or give that a point of view that is needed to let everybody know that there's more than one point of view out there. So I appreciate you in that. So I'll sum it up by saying that self-reflection and accountability, it is a hard thing to swallow, to face, and to overcome. But if you ever want to be better, if you ever want to grow, you have to, at some point, address these things. No matter how talented, how smart, or how anything you are. I've watched over the years, millionaires, people with all the money still commit suicide or something like that because they have not addressed that self-care, that self-need, that self-want. So do your best always to be as authentically honest and improve every single day. Read something. If you need a podcast, this podcast is here. There's other podcasts. If you need YouTube, if you need good Amazon books, anything that will enrich your mind, you'll see how quickly you'll grow and change. But if you listen to the same toxic stuff over and over again, you kind of subliminally program yourself to have a certain mindset. So always work to grow and improve. So with that being said, that will be my closeout for today. And this is the Relationship DNA podcast. Please find us on social media. Please find us on YouTube. Please go hit our link tree. As I said, the relationshipdna.com website is now up. I officially just redid the AnthonySmalls.com website, so that's up as well. You listen, I'm trying. I just, every once in a while I'm like, okay, let me update this, let me do this. I am the person that has my hands in a whole lot of things, so it takes time. He does. It takes time. So thank you. I appreciate you. Love you, sis. You. And we out.
Let's do it again.
Yes. Later, everyone.
Later.